Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I am Dr. Anarita Bashalieva, along with co-host Dr. Victor Fett, Dr. Katerina Shrey, and our program producer, Professor Larry Shrey. We host a weekly discussion panel on Russia's war on Ukraine with guests from Ukraine, military experts, medical personnel, academics, artists, literary figures, and relief workers. Our panel is recorded and circulated nationally and internationally. We appreciate your comments and feedback. Special thanks to Marshall University Libraries and MUIT for making this weekly event possible. If you are joining us live on Teams, please feel free to use the chat to pose any questions for our guest. A quick greetings to our viewers in Ukraine from Professor Katerina Shrey.
Вітаємо наших слухачів в Україні з глибоким покліном. Ми далі свідки вашого страшного терпіння і також вашої великої сили. Дякую вам за вашу участь в нашій тижневій програмі.
Thank you, Katerina. Today's guest will be introduced by Professor Victor Fett.
Thank you, Anara. Welcome everyone for MUkraine discussion group for our 120th weekly meeting. And we welcome back a great friend on our program, Dr. Petro Strizhak, who joined us from Kyiv, Ukraine. And as you can see from his background, there is a power outage, energy infrastructure. The grid is hit constantly by Russian attacks. And we are just honored to have our Kyiv friend here and to record this in the midst of war, which lasts much more than anyone could expect and predict. We are honored and humbled to have you here, Petro. Please talk to us.
Thank you for introducing me. Thank you for inviting me. I am honored to speak on this panel, discussing everything, and I wish just to say what is going on around, what's going on in Ukraine, in Kyiv, in Kharkiv. I have friends throughout the whole Ukraine, and we are communicating, discussing last events. So during last month, Russians attacked our power grid, and as a result, nobody says exactly the digits, but as a result, sometimes we don't have a power supply, we don't have electricity during up to 15 hours per day. So just 9-10 hours per day power is available. So you may imagine how people are feeling themselves, how they are doing without electricity these days. It's very hard to survive in a big city where basically everything is dependable on the electricity. But our first blackout happened October 2022 when Russians launched missiles on our power grid. And that time, for example, at the place where I'm sitting right now, we were living without electricity, I guess, for 7 or 8 days. So it was a little bit longer than a week. And after that, we have some small power supplies that allowed, for example, for me, it allowed to get enough electricity, but we minimize the electricity consumption, so I can survive for up to 8 hours at least without performing some extra charging. And if I perform extra charging, so basically I can survive as long as as possible, basically. Many people, for example, friends of mine, our neighbors, our friends who are living in nearby villages and towns, they also organized some small power supplies. So today, of course, it's disaster. It's hard to manage it, but it's manageable at least. And not. I would like to stress that it's not only personal. I mean that not only locally we are supporting ourselves by power. Important thing is internet connection. And 2 years ago, not 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, first blackout, October, internet was lost immediately after electricity was gone and it was shut down. And during blackouts, we were living without electricity, of course, without internet connection. Today, hopefully, internet works perfectly, and if you are able to support yourself with electricity and you have Ethernet connection in either it's fiber or some other types of connection, so it works. And that's the main advantage that not only people but companies, and there are different companies who are supplying us with the internet, so most of them organized extra power supply on. I don't know how it works, but at least they manage it, they figure it out. And if you are consuming minimal amount of electricity, for example, I switched off almost everything, so at least from one blackout to second blackout, it's manageable to survive. So that's the first thing I was thinking to speak about. And it's just a part of the story how Russians changed their attack on civilians in Ukraine. They changed their strategy. The first part, they are trying to destroy our power grid. And unfortunately, they were fairly successful in this. Second part, that if before, I would say before 1 or 2 months, they used only drones. We call them Shaheds. Shaheds because they have origin from Iran, and maybe you know that Iran organized the transfer of technology to Russia. In Russia, they built up fabric to produce these drones, and part of drones are coming from Iran directly. Each day they launch on the civilians. I'm talking about civilians, and these drones are long-range drones, which may fly for the distance about 500 and even more kilometers. So each day they launch from 30 to 50 drones to Ukrainian civilians, and in average I would say 5-10 missiles, except special days when number of drones increases up to 60, 80 probably, and number of missiles up to probably from 30 to 60. But I would what is important for us that those numbers are much lower comparing to what we have been facing during year 2022 and 2023. So definitely it shows that power of Russian military goes down, but right now it's constant on this level. And second, however, they changed the quality of missiles which they are launching into mainland land of Ukraine, and bombs and missiles they are launching on the front line, again on civilians, and along the border between Ukraine and Russia. So the change is that I guess 2 months or maybe a month ago, I'm not sure, they started to use cluster bombs along the border, and because they may target up to 50 kilometers, I guess, from so maybe 70 kilometers from the drop point, and they also change missiles. So last time missiles also contain this sort of cluster explosion, and definitely it is directed to kill as much civilians as possible. So that's just a part of genocide which is Russian military are performing, and they are following this strategy just to kill as much people as possible and to destroy as much building as possible, to destroy our power grid as much as possible. However, during the last time I've been talking in this panel, a lot of good things happened thanks to voting in House and in Senate in the United States. We have got financial and military support from the United States, and followed by enormous support from other countries. You know that in few days it's gonna be a NATO meeting where some new kind of support will be announced. But I mean that after House voted, I guess 3 or 4 days after that, situation changed, not along all front line or along all border, but definitely in some cities, especially in Kharkiv, where I had a talk, I guess, yeah, a few days ago with a friend of mine from Kharkiv, and he told me that approximately bombing and missiles explosions it decreases at least 2 times in Kharkiv. So some air defense systems were transferred to Kharkiv area, and what was new that our how to say it, our fights also started striking Russians on the Russian land, and that definitely changed the whole situation in the Kharkiv area. So definitely it's for the city, for the whole city, situation became a little bit better comparing to what they were facing half a year ago when, gosh, they were living without electricity for days, each day 6, 7, 10 explosions in the center of city, and that was awful, basically. So thanks to United States, thanks to our Western partners, thanks to all countries who are supporting us. Definitely each support is very important, and we are facing, remember, we are facing it here, we are feeling it here each day. If some decision have made somewhere in States or Europe, 2 days, 3 days, week after, we are affected, positively affected by that decision. And what I would like to talk a little bit about is how to say, is a patriotic character of Ukrainians, because these days, for example, here in Ukraine, I am not listening to Western or news in United States, but here in Ukraine, it's a huge propagandistic wave originated from Russia, that Ukrainians are tired, that they don't wish to serve in Ukrainian forces, they don't wish to go to defend their country, they are just thinking how to avoid it, how to escape to Europe or United States. All that is total bullshit, because most of population is wishing to defend our country. Most of population is willing to serve in our defense forces. And just few examples to show it. Before the war, it was 4 and 5 years ago, several students joined my lab. There were 4 students. They were at that time first grade students, and they were very successful during their work in my lab. They started some scientific research, they were studying very successfully. One of them prepared a good publication which has been published, I guess, a year ago. Second student wrote a patent with a fairly interesting innovation. The third one was not so good. The fourth, he started a long range study. Right now, he is finishing part of the study, but that was his decision. I mean that not to get not a quick success, but just to learn a little bit more, some things a little bit more deeply, and to perform experimental work for a longer time comparing to other students. Anyway, so this year, two of these students, okay, and you should remember that they have how to say it, they by law they may not serve in military. And if they will stay in my lab and they will decide to make their career, their scientific career in my lab, they were allowed by law not serving in military forces, not serving in the army. So, but two of them decided to go to defend our country in our defense forces, and right now one of them is already serving, and the second one on the stage of getting it's sort of permission. It's some procedure, but anyway, he will go to our defense forces. That's just 50% of students decided to go to defend our country, and I'm not saying that it's common that 50% of all students in Ukraine. That would be too much, but definitely appreciable amount of students who are allowed by law not serving in the army, they decided to join our defense forces. And the second very interesting information, some agency decided to organize a poll in Kyiv and Kyiv area with two questions. The first question, if situation in Kyiv would be like in the beginning of the war when Russians were trying to occupy Kyiv, they were staying just few kilometers from the city, and I guess 15 kilometers from the center of the city, when they were bombing, launching missiles on the city, and it was disaster. So how many people are going to leave the city? That's the first question. I will remind you that in February, March, April 2022, almost, I guess, 80% of population left the city. 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, that poll showed that 95% of population will decide to stay in Kyiv. That means that people are believing in our victory. People are believing that we are doing right things, that we will defend our country, and we kick off Russians from our land. And the second question was the following. In the same situation, if Kyiv will be under siege, how many of you will go to defend the city, joining military forces or something like that? So 12% of population answered positively. But 12% of population, that means that if we count for young, for kids basically in the age before 18, and for elders, and we have a lot, enormously large amount of elders at the age above 60, and the rest, the residue will divide by 2 according to men and women. So that would be 12%, means the all active man population of the city is going to defend it in that situation. So that means that basically I am just extrapolating that result into the whole country. That means that all country is going to defend, and that people are standing hand by hand to each other. Not all of them, obviously, on the front line. Most of population works on keeping growing our products and stuff like that. So basically, that means that we all are having the same feelings, and that all people in Ukraine are believing that victory is waiting for us, but it's not just waiting, that we should make that victory, and we should defend our country. So, and the last but, however, that and the third thing, that during last month, maybe some of you know that our government introduced a new procedure and new law how to hire people for our defense forces. And during last month, they hired more people than during last half a year. But that's just how to say it. That's just because more options appeared. And what is interesting, that before, I would say, year ago and before, we had mostly Soviet-like hiring system, hiring to defense forces. During last year, situation keeps changing, and it becomes more and more like in some other countries, when, for example, brigade has their own hiring people, they have some special staff, some special places, young people are coming there, discussing, and they can decide what is, and at which position they can serve, and that definitely gives more options from one hand and gives more opportunities from the other. And people who are wishing to serve in defense forces, they see how it works, and they make their own decision how to defend our country in this or that brigade. So that is very positive, and definitely all this will support that our military forces will have enough people to defend, because it's not just, you hire and 2 days after they are going to front line. No, basically it takes from 3 to 6 months to be prepared to fight, to defend our country. But it also has a negative part. I mean that today we are facing lack of people in civilian life to work in industry, to work in supplies, to work in different um, branches of our economy. And what I have been facing personally, a week ago we were discussing some very promising project, but there is no way to launch it because there is not enough proper people to run it, and there is no way to hire proper people in that specific area. So definitely that might today it's not critical, but it might be critical in years coming. But I believe that it would be a solution how to figure it out and how to maybe hire people from abroad, from other countries, might be some other decisions. So God knows, but we are smart enough to solve all problems we are facing these days during the war, and I am pretty sure and I am pretty optimistic about situation that could be. And as personal example, for example, I will say that the same concerns science. I am going to run a NATO project, and according to the NATO project, I may hire a young guy who will be on PhD program, but I cannot find a proper person. Unfortunately, I do hope that it's still a time to find somebody, but it's a problem. It's a problem to find, even if you have. I wouldn't say that it's enough salary. Salary that's a problem, but in this case, it's not so much problem of salary. It's more problem of personal skills, and definitely to find a properly skilled young man. That's a problem. I'm not saying that there are not properly skilled young men, but I mean it's a problem how to get a fit between who has a job and who is wishing to get a similar kind of job. And I guess that's because of the war, because people are not paying so much attention to this kind of problems. For example, me personally and students as well, I discussed that problem with students because, you know, there are a lot of other things you should take care about, you should be worry about. And this week, and that would be the end of my talk. With that, just suddenly happened. I discussed with several people problems which we are going to face in science, and that it looks like that is gonna be a very big problem because as I told you, part of young smart students decided to defend our country. That is good, of course. Part of students and scientific researchers left country conducting their studies, study and scientific research in Europe or United States. That is also definitely good. But here in Ukraine, we are not having enough financial support. We are not having enough people to maintain level of our scientific research. I would say in 5 or 10 years. Right now, situation is not bad. It's much more better than I was being expecting at the beginning of the war. But I see that if changes will not appear during 2 or 3 years, then problems in scientific institutions, in higher education, will be keeping growing, and they may reach some sort of bifurcation point with unavoidable results and consequences which we will not be able to figure out in the future. So because I am working as a scientist and in National Academy of Science of Ukraine, and I'm also working in higher education at the university. So I see that it could be if nothing happened during a while. So that's all what I was thinking to tell you about. I'm sorry if not all my thoughts were fitting your expectations, but anyway, I do appreciate your attention. If you have questions, thoughts, comments, I would appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Strizhak. We're very glad to have you, and I see already question from Dr. Len Deutsch. Please, Dr. Deutsch.
Hi. It sounds as though Russia is trying to undermine and demoralize the people. Are you getting feedback from me?
Yeah. But it's with echo.
Okay. But the people seem to have come together. Are you at all concerned about spies who are engaging in sabotage?
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Well, right now in Kyiv, I'm talking in Kyiv, nothing like that I have seen. But in the beginning of the war, that was in February, March, in my building in Kyiv, in basement, 2 spies were cuffed. That was the case. But today there is no sabotage or anything like that, and basically I am surprised hearing that sort of question, because here nobody uses this word sabotage, because there is no sabotage at all. People are understanding that if you are working, you are supporting your country. If you are serving in defense forces, you are defending your country, and whatever. Basically, even a lot of my friends who left country for different reasons, and right now they are living in Poland, England, Germany, Switzerland, Spain. So they are trying to support in their own way our country. So nothing like sabotage. And And since April, I haven't heard about spies in Kyiv, at least. I mean, okay, well, maybe you were thinking about how it's called fifth column or something like that. That I would agree with you. That might be a problem. But you know, that's the war. So there is no way to avoid it. And be honest, I am pretty sure that several percent of population are thinking to support Russians. I would agree with that sort of thinking. But for example, before the war, it was more than 20% according to official results. So yeah, that if you ask them, if you thought about that kind of spies, but they are not spies. They're just people.
Can you say a little bit more about the peace column movement?
Basically, it's for me it's very hard to understand these people. I will tell you, for example, yeah, this man, this Tuesday, a friend of mine went from Odessa to Kyiv for one day. We have a sort of cooperation, and after our work, we were sitting discussing different things. And one thing touched exactly the question you asked. In Odessa, it was a woman who gave to Russians coordinates of some military object. But basically, it was not even military object, of some object. It wasn't military object, of some object for money or for something, I don't know, and it does not matter. But as a result, Russians destroyed her building. What can you say about it? That's just how it happened. Another example, in Kharkiv area, two brothers, they left Ukrainian land. They after the war to Russia, but they were living in small town where people knows each other, and they were on the phone connection with people from that town. They discussed different things. They at some moment they learned that some event will take place in some place in the town. They gave coordinates to Russians military. They targeted that place, and more than 10 friends of these two brothers were killed. What can I say? That's the war, I have no explanation. I know just examples. That's it. How can you explain the behavior of that woman from Odessa area? No way, no reasons. I hope I just answered, giving examples, I just answered your question.
You did. Thank you.
Thank you. Katerina Shrey, please, Dr. Shrey.
Hello. So a quick follow-up to Dean Deutsch's, the first part of Dean Deutsch's question. So not talking about spies or sabotage, but how about normal crime? And maybe the term normal crime doesn't make sense. Hopefully it doesn't. But here in the United States, when we have a power outage especially in big cities, it's not unusual for robberies to increase, store break-ins to increase. I would imagine that being under the threat of war, changes people's behavior. Perhaps that doesn't happen, but I am wondering what if there is an increase in just petty crimes during a power outage.
Well, it's a good question, actually. Well, okay, again, examples. In my building before the war, I guess each year it was a sort of crime event. After war started, no crime at all. So I remember, I don't know these days, but I remember that that question was discussed on some TV show or whatever in 2022, I guess June, July, something like that. And officially, crime was dropped down 2 or 3 times.
Mm.
But
No,
right now, I don't know because, well, okay, that time I don't know. Maybe you have seen these short movies. If somebody, that's I have seen by my eyes. If somebody performed crime in Kyiv or small town, then people punished these guys by themselves in a certain way. I will not say in which way, but so yeah, and that helped definitely. For example, well, okay.
well, so switching gears to about back to the power outage, a different angle of it. You're a chemist, and so you have a lab with probably with equipment. I understand that you're able to provide electricity for yourself by organizing a power supply in your home. How does the power outage affect the equipment at our university in the chemistry department is very much reliant on electricity to be powered to keep things at the correct temperatures and similar things. How are you all maintaining the equipment in your chemistry labs?
Yeah, that's a big problem basically because I have some equipment that should be supplied 24 hours, 7 days per week, and I just shut it down. No way, no way. And all what we can run these days is an experiment for, I would say, 6 hours. Unfortunately, in my case, experiment lasts from 8 to 12 hours. We have some specificity. So I just changed some words. So in order to adjust it, that the experimental part will be performed during time during 6 hours and not longer. There is no way to figure it out because I counted it. Yeah, I need a power supply for something like 30 kilowatts, and to organize it, I need 30,000 US dollars, and I don't have it. So, but that just it's not my whole lab. That just two rooms, two
Wow.
yeah. But for the whole, I even can't imagine. Just multiply it 3 times. So no way.
Yeah, thank you so much for drawing our attention to the impact this horrible war has like on every aspect of life. And I have to say, listening to you, it inspires me. You sound strong, you sound confident, you sound optimistic, and I'm so grateful to you. What a great example you are to the world
Come
about
on.
hanging in there.
Everybody here is like me. Trust me.
No, I mean, Ukrainians are really calling us to be better people. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Katerina. This couldn't have been said better. And indeed, Ukrainians are shining example for the entire world. We all wish the situation would change soon. And there are some, I guess, tectonic movements which show that things may be better than they are today. Would I have more comments or questions from the panel, please? We have quite a bit of people today. We have our friends, local and from other cities in the United States. Please open your camera and say a few words if you wish. We constantly receive interesting reports, and when this program started over 2 years ago, of course, nobody knew that it would last for so long, but at least we can do is to stay with this continuity, and we're so glad that many people like you, Petro, are coming back and basically are our willing volunteer correspondents in different parts of the world and Ukraine. Katerina?
So this is switching topics, but it's a topic that we have revisited throughout our 2 years of this program. And often our guests talk about the impact on pets, on domestic animals of this horrible war. And so I'm going to share really quickly a screenshot of a film that just came out. And Dr. Strizhak, I'm wondering if you're familiar with this. It's a film, My Nashi Ulublenci Tavina. We are beloved and the war. And this is a film it's made by Anthony Tushkin, and it's a collaboration between the Ukrainians and Canadians, and it was recently shown on PBS. And so I'm wondering, one, is this a film you are aware of, Dr. Strizhak? Originally, this was made for the for the American audience, but then it was also taken into account that it's a story worth sharing with the Ukrainian people themselves. Is this familiar? Have you seen this?
I am not familiar with this particular film, but yeah, it's actually, well, I explain you why I'm laughing. That each day, well, okay, I am waking up early morning, and I have just 40 minutes up to 1 hour to watch TV during my breakfast. The rest of my day is so busy that I have no time to listen for news and things like that. So during this during this hour, for example, okay, well, almost each day, our TV guys show a story how we take care about our pets. For example, it's a very funny story when some guy he was searching for people in some area to evacuate it because that area was expecting to be occupied by Russians. And he found some, I guess, men and 3 or 4 or 5 dogs. So basically, they collected these dogs and they evacuated them into the Ukrainian part, in the I mean to Ukrainian authority land. And there are a lot of stories like that. Like that, and people, well, and people definitely like it. For example, I have a cat. I take care about it, but yeah. That's definitely, that's sort of, how to say it. I'm not saying that it's a Ukrainian proud, but something like that. That people, they take care about it and they worry about. So, for example, some old woman, she decided not to take some her stuff, but well, okay, she took her cat with her to evacuate from some other place. Well, definitely a lot of stories about pets. And
almost since the beginning of the war. I think our first maybe month of our programs, we talked about other things, but as early as April of 2022, some of our guests who came on the show talked about the plight of pets and also the role of pets in our lives. It's a bit surprising. We're talking about human loss and devastation, and yet very early on, pets became a subject of discussion. It's actually very well reflected in the book that Rudy and the Milky Way that is now being published in English, thanks to the effort of our own Dr. Victor Fett. The idea of this film, and I'm wondering if there's anybody listening who has seen this film and wants to chime in, that would be great. The idea, it comes from a quote from Asha Serpenska, who is the founder of the Hostomel shelter. I don't actually know Deya Hostomel. Where is Hostomel in Ukraine? Is that?
It's not far from Kyiv. It's just, I guess, less than 100 kilometers from Kyiv.
So her saying is save animals to stay human. I mean, there is something to that in these times of horrible inhumanity and suffering. To be able to extend kindness to another living creature, even though it's not a human. I mean, there is comfort and joy and some salvation, redemption of us in that. So I just I was just wondering if you had seen it or if anybody on our panel has seen it. I believe my father watched this film. It was aired on our local public television station, and he found it very moving. I have not yet seen it, but again, the theme of pets in Ukraine affected by the horrors of war. It's a recurring theme in our conversations. So, and so in any case.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Thank you, Katerina. It's really amazing. Anara, please.
I have a question. Yesterday, Putin set out conditions for peace talk.
Yes.
And how Ukrainian actually visualize the end of the war and peace conditions, and how Ukrainians reacted to this proposal. Thank you.
Well,
I'm going to put it in the chat. I'm going to put what Putin proposed in the chat so we can all see the text.
First, I would say that we don't care about what Putin says, because nobody believes him. That's point number one. Point number two, as I understand today, Ukrainians are thinking about only one thing, that all Ukrainian land should be liberated, and all Russians should be kicked off from our land. So that's the main point for, I guess, everybody in Ukraine. So that's how people today see that see the continuation of the war. My personal opinion is that even in the case if we liberate our land and Russian troops will be forced back to the Russia across the border according to the Ukrainian constitution, then the war will not be ended. The war will last and last, because imagine, today Russia, I told you, Russians military, they launch each day 5-10 missiles on Ukraine. What changes if Russian forces will not be presented on the Ukrainian land? Nothing. They will be continuing launching these missiles. They will be continuing launching drones. They will be continuing killing our population. That's one part of the story. Another part of the story, there is only one way how I would not say situation, feelings or whatever, but how something may change. It's only one way. If Russians, by their own decision, will stop fire, will stop launching missiles, will stop any military action along the border and along the front line. That's only one thing that may affect the situation. But ask yourself, anybody believes in that? Nobody. Is it possible? No way. So I guess that I gave you optimistic prediction, I gave you realistic situation, and as smart people, you may make conclusion by yourself how peace may come to Ukraine.
Thank you very much for your answer.
Petro. Thank you. Well, if we have no more questions or comments, we will thank you for this optimistic and realistic and very deep analysis. And we are watching very carefully. The whole world, I trust, is watching very carefully what's going on in these days in Swiss summit, in decisions of European countries, and of course, as we enter very close in American political cycle into our elections, it's very important that the agreement signed yesterday will hopefully prove more solid than the unfortunate Budapest memorandum, which many people don't remember. It was signed over 30 years ago by George Bush Sr., I believe. Well,
thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you for your panel. I am pretty sure it is very important, not only for you, but for people in Ukraine and in the whole world. And as much events like this will be taking place, our victory will become and definitely good and bright part of the world will get victory and bad guys will come.
Thank you. Please, Dr. Shrey, say a couple of words to our viewers.
Дорогі браття і сестри в Україні, ми зберігаємо вас у наших думках і молитвах і серцях. Нехай милосердний Бог тримає вас у своїй опіці. До наступного тижня. Прощаємося.
Слава Україні!
Героям слава!